Done by Noon podcast. This is our first ever episode.
You're listening to the Done by Noon podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to achieve more by noon than others in a full day. Serial entrepreneur Dave Ruel and his co-host Chris Lopez share the strategies that will help you optimize your productivity, performance, and lifestyle so you can reach new heights in your business and life. So if you're ready to become the most efficient and effective entrepreneur you know, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show.
Chris.
Hello,
Chris
sir.
Lopez. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. I still can't get over how good that intro is. Great job on that.
It wasn't my voice, obviously.
Of course, obviously.
That accent is a bit different. Dude, I am stoked. Can we still use the word stoked in 2020?
We can because we're old.
Okay.
That's why we can use it.
It's not used by young people, but by old people anymore. By young people, I mean.
I think the kids these days say lit. Is that what they say?
It's lit? Like Louis Lit?
Yeah, exactly. My daughters are probably in the other room rolling their eyes at me right now.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. Man, I'm excited for this podcast. It's been a long time coming, the Done by Noon podcast. And, you know, the goal with this first episode, is really to get everyone to understand where this Done by Noon podcast is coming from, who we are as well. You know, I think if you're listening to the first episode, you might know us or heard of us, but, you know, really want to get into more depth into how, who we are and also how we know each other, because we've known each other for about a decade now.
Yeah, 10 years. 10 years. I've got actually some funny stories from the first time that you and I met face to face.
Really?
If you remember that time? Yeah.
No, when was that? Because I've known you like on the interwebs for like a long time. So because like, just so you know, Chris and I have been online entrepreneurs for how long have you been an online entrepreneur now, Chris?
I've been online since November of 2007.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's like your 13 years now. So 12 years.
Yep.
More than 12 years. So in like 12 years in internet time is about 82 years in real life.
Yeah, exactly. The 14-year overnight success is like what they call it in business.
And I've been online, so full-time online since May 2009, part-time before that. So I came in part-time just like, I guess around your time, you know, around in 2007 or so. And I've known of you because we were both in the fitness marketing online space. And yeah, you were one of the OGs. So obviously, like by default, and both being Canadian, we knew of each other. So yeah, we've been talking a lot of time. When was the first time we met in person, actually?
I think it was White Oaks. Do you remember that mastermind that was 2000 because you and I had spoken to you on the phone before, and I had done some affiliate stuff with you before. When I first started online in 2007, I didn't have a product or anything. I just put out a blog, and a mutual friend of ours was the one who got me into it. And so from there,
who got you into it?
It was Craig Ballantyne.
Oh, Craig, that's right.
So Craig, early to rise Ballantyne, he and I were personal trainers at the same gym in Toronto. And I mean, this is part of my origin story, but he saw that I was working really hard because we only had, I say only, but at the time we only had 2 kids. And he saw that I was working a lot and trading dollars for hours. And he saw that I was using a kettlebell quite often because back then I was a student of Pavel. And so he had approached me in the gym one time, and this is how we became very good friends. And he said, I'm starting to dabble a little bit with this internet stuff. Do you think I can teach some of this to you? Because I think it might be of use to you because number one, you know how to use a kettlebell. And number two, I know that your wife is pregnant again with the third, and you probably want to spend a lot of time with your family. So this could be something that we could work on.
So that we're clear now for our audience. Can you say how many kids you have?
That I know of? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
My wife and I have 5 kids. So not 5 kids between us, like the 5 kids, like they're all mine and all hers. And it's not like, because you have to say that these days. So we have 5 kids. Our oldest is 21.
Wow.
And then we have a 16, 14, 12, and 10 our son is 10 years old now.
I can't believe that Q is 10. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Times
No,
go so fast. But
so fast.
yeah. And you and Roseanne have been together for what now? 20, well, more than 21 years, obviously. Been together for a
More
long
than
time, right?
We're coming on our 20th wedding anniversary, but we were high school sweethearts. So we
Wow.
like to tell the kids that we're definitely the exception and not necessarily the rule. So anybody that you meet right now, because a lot of them are the age when Roseanne and I met. AJ, our oldest daughter, is 21, and that's the same age when I had her.
You had her,
So
right?
yeah, it's kind
And
of freaking me out.
the thing that is freaking me out is the fact that you guys don't age. I mean, you guys should see Roseanne and Chris. I mean, how old are you now, Chris?
I'm going to be 43 at the end of the month. We're recording this in January, the beginning of January. I'm going to be 43 at the end of the month.
You guys still look like in your mid-20s. It's insane. It's crazy.
See,
I
and
don't know
this is
if it's that Filipino blood or I don't know what the secret is. I think we should do actually episodes on longevity. It's because we want to know you. We want to know you guys' secrets to look that young. It's crazy, man. I mean, I still can
it's
get
the
over it.
Asian it's the Asian thing. I always tell people that, I'm going to look like this up until I turn 59 and then or up until I turn 49. And then the day that I turn 50, I'm just going to look like Mr. Miyagi for the rest of my life.
You're going to be so much wiser, right? Like
Yeah,
just when
exactly.
you turn there, like you're going to just give life lessons left and right.
Full Fu Manchu beard and everything.
Oh my God. Wu-Tang.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Wu-Tang forever. And we're both like fans of old school hip hop. So I think you're more than a fan in me of old school hip hop, but we both love old school hip hop. And
Yeah, that was just the culture that I grew up in.
so we connected that way originally, right? So yeah, back so back to that story. So the fact, yeah, we knew each other. We met in real life. Obviously, when we met in real life, we bromanced hard. It was
You know what won me over actually with you? Do you remember when we were playing basketball?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
And
Okay. That was that time. Okay.
and you were wearing flip-flops and you were bawling out. And I was like, I think I'm in love with Dave Ruel.
Dude, you didn't know I played basketball through my whole like teens, right? And then I moved full time to hockey after that. But yeah, I played basketball through my teens, right? I had a terrible vertical, but I had a good shot, so that saved me.
Yeah, your skill set was really. I mean, I think that's another thing that you and I both had in common. I mean, we were both athletes growing up, and so I think maybe that's what brought us into the fitness space, and then that led us into the online space, and then now we've kind of transitioned out of that.
Yeah, transitioned really into that's why I like the Done by Noon podcast. And I want you guys to understand where it's coming from, because Chris and I both have an athletic background. We were both trainers. I competed in bodybuilding for many years, and then I went on coaching, athletes, and from there, obviously what I think, I don't know if it's the same with you, probably, but what I've learned from my years as an athlete and as a coach, coaching high level people, I brought that into my business, and that skill set really that I acquired, and that, the skill set, the mindset, the habits, the discipline, the consistency, everything that I've learned from sports performance, really became, my unfair advantage in business. And from there, I was able to really bring my business to the next level using the same type of principles. We're going to talk about these principles, in future episodes. But that was a massive edge for me. And from there, launching my business in the fitness space, then I went on to build a publishing company still in the health and fitness space, and then launch a successful supplements company that I later sold. I then moved on into coaching. And with coaching, what I realized is that I had the opportunity to actually, it's a weird thing, because when I stopped coaching, like, fitness and everything, I was like, I don't feel like I'm going to coach again. And I didn't really feel like the need for it or the passion for it. And one day, and from when I sold Bioptimizers, the supplements company, I started doing a little bit of public speaking, about, building an online business and a lot more, about the online stuff and getting more freedom, things like that, online marketing. And one day I was speaking, that was in Quebec City, and I was crazy. I had a full group of people coming to me and asking me, I guess my talk was good that day. I don't know, but they all came to me, and it was a big event. And they all came to me after the event and like, what, how can we get mentored by you? I was like, holy smokes. I mean, I didn't selling it. I wasn't even intending on building something. And, you and I have been part of masterminds for a long time. I mean, we're actually still part of the same masterminds that we have with the different peers, which is called the Baconator, the Canadian Baconators Mastermind.
Best mastermind ever.
It's been going on for a while now, but it's like more of a peer-to-peer mastermind. But we've always been, either students, like, part of mastermind and students, or leading, masterminds and coaching groups, not coaching groups, but masterminds. So I wasn't intending on building like any type of coaching. And then that group came over and it's like, okay, well, let's do something. So I've built my own mastermind from there. And what I've realized is that working with entrepreneurs, which is actually very similar of working with athletes, and I realized that they just need as much guidance as they would need. But when you realize as working with athletes is that, yes, they need to fine tune their skills, but they already have skills. You know what I mean? When you work with high level people, they have that natural talent. And what you need to work on them with is their mindset, is their habits, is everything the same thing that you need to work on with athletes. So and same thing with entrepreneurs. So I started developing different tools and different things to help them out. And this is how Ethic was born. So Ethic is a company that helps entrepreneurs become more productive and performant. We have different tools, different trainings for that. We also now have certified partners. So as I've built that, and obviously the systems and the tools that I gave my students became Ethic, became more standardized. I started sharing that with the world, and we caught some good traction. We caught some global attention, and from there we started getting requests from coaches, from business coaches, to integrate our stuff into what they were doing. So we launched the Ethic Certified Partner Program, which is so pretty much like a licensing program of the Ethic methodology. And now we have coaches actually sharing the methodology with others. So it's pretty cool the way that it evolved. And the Done by Noon. So Done by Noon is actually one of it's my time management framework. And this is by far the most popular framework because, obviously this is what people want. It's like, oh, how can I be done by noon? It's like the 4-hour work week, right? Like, Chris, I mean, how influential was the 4-hour work week, for you as far as like becoming an online entrepreneur? Like, how much were you looking up to that book?
Oh, that opened the door for me and made me realize how much I wanted to have this lifestyle. Because I mean, probably for me, it was one of the things where I really wanted to build a business around my life and not have my life revolve around the business.
Yes.
Again, because it was, I mean, I got into the online space and to become an entrepreneur because I wanted autonomy to be able to control my time so I could spend more time with my family. And when a title like the 4-hour work week comes up, you automatically gravitate towards the title because yes, that's what I want. I want to be able to work less and still be able to be effective and be able to support a family and still have time for the things that I love. And so that's why when you told me about the title of the podcast and the book and the whole concept of Done by Noon, I was so excited because that probably says more and it is more congruent to what an entrepreneurial lifestyle is than the 4-hour work week for people that have a family and have a business that they want to be able to manage. Because, I mean, let's face it, Dave, I mean, for a lot of people and a lot of entrepreneurs, tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, but the 4-hour work week doesn't, I mean, if you average everything out, then yeah, I guess and you take these mini retirements like what Tim talks about in his book, then I guess, yeah, you can have a 4-hour work week. But the reality is that it's very difficult to only work 4 hours a week if you are an entrepreneur, no matter how many systems you have in place.
I
Like, you
don't
have
think
to do it.
I don't think people actually want to work, 4 hours a week, because as entrepreneurs, we're really motivated by, creation. We're going to talk about the freedoms in the next episode, but we're driven by freedom in a different way that you might think. And it's not about working less or about being lazy. It's about better managing our time and having leverage to have that type of business. Because, well, and let's be honest, like when you read the 4-hour work week, like the title is catchy, but when you read the book, like what it teaches you is not really like to work, to have a 4-hour work week. It's really to leverage, having leverage. So, hiring people, using the right systems, building processes, things like that, things that we will teach you in this podcast. It's really about creating a mindset of the type of business that you want. And it's not for everybody. I mean, if you're here, and I mean, I know guys, guys in tech, for example, have friends in the SaaS business and in the SaaS space, and they love working a long time, like highly complicated things. And it's a very different type of business than what you and I have built over time. For us, we were very clear that lifestyle was number one, that, we wanted to build a business around our life and not the opposite. And it was very clear. So, obviously Done by Noon, it's our framework, and I'll explain the framework in a later episode. I like that I always say in a later episode, I want you guys to stick with us. But I mean, obviously, like
that's called an open loop for people that
don't. but it's a real framework. But if you apply it, yeah, you could be done by noon, but it really needs to apply with your style of business, and that doesn't mean that it's the absolute goal. You know what I mean? So we really want we want to attract here in this podcast, people that are very lifestyle oriented, people who want to have more leverage, use better systems, be more productive and performant in their entrepreneurial lives, but also being performant in their real lives, whether it's their marriage, whether it's with their kids, like personally, I mean, we want this type of people, right? So, if that's what you want, you're in the right place. So yeah, this is how it was born. Like the Done by Noon framework is by far the most popular framework because it appeals to that. And I think, if you're like us, if you're lifestyle driven, and this is why you started your business in the first place, I think you're going to love this podcast. And we're going to do our best to provide you the best information. No bullshit. We're going to be as open as possible and as honest as possible with everything, to show you not just like, we don't want to, just pour glitter, or, just dump glitter on your face and tell you like, oh yeah, this is the online lifestyle and this is great. And you have a lot of guys do that online, different podcasts, just expose flat out illusion. And there's a reality to building that type of business, and that's why we want to expose to you guys. So hope we're going to be able to.
Well, we'll tell you the truth, I think, and the truth is that there's both, the difficult stuff and then the amazing stuff, like being able to spend more time with doing the things that we want to do. And so I think it's important that everybody knows that we're not going to hold back here, because I know that I've struggled at times and I can't think of a better person to teach systems than you, because I've seen the beginning of what you've done, and you've been preaching systems and skills, and you had from the time that you and I first met, you've had a very meta kind of outlook on business and what you need to do to succeed. And you've gone from what I've seen, you've gone from the fitness industry and now you're coaching entrepreneurs only because you had the meta skills, like you had the skills of whatever it was that you needed to be able to carry over from the fitness industry into the productivity industry and the coaching industry. So I honestly, I can't think of a better person to teach that type of framework and the skills needed to be able to live a Done by Noon lifestyle.
Thanks, man. And you know what, and I told you that before, but for me personally with you was like seeing and witnessing the relationship you had with Roseanne and how you were raising your kids. And for me, that you've been my biggest mentor when it comes to family, when it comes to family life and marriage, because I see all the things that you guys are doing, and I'm like, I'm very admirative to what you guys are doing, and you guys have been huge examples to for Karen, my wife, to raise her kids, but also have a great marriage, and in an entrepreneurial context, because you guys are both entrepreneurs as well, raising kids. I mean, and you guys have been. I mean, we haven't mentioned that, but what was it? 2 years ago, you took the kids, sold a house in Toronto, and moved to the jungle in Costa Rica. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, we were so we were looking for a simpler lifestyle, and Roseanne and I, when we make decisions, I don't want to say that we fly by the seat of our pants, but we like taking risks. And one of the things that we found was, and we had a beautiful home in Toronto. We're as you had mentioned earlier, you and I are both Canadian, so we were living in Toronto. I've been living in Toronto all of my life. Roseanne was the same thing, and it was one of those things where our oldest daughter was going off to university. She went to university in Barcelona, and we were looking for, I guess, just a change. And it wasn't a matter of just, had we sold the house and moved to a bigger house, which was also something that we considered, it would have been the same thing, just in a bigger space. So we wanted to live a simpler lifestyle. We almost had an awakening where it was like, we don't really need as much as we think we need. And so we wanted to try to do things a little simpler and a little, just a little different, a little contrarian. And so what we did was, when my daughter was accepted into university, we were in Costa Rica on vacation, and we've been coming back and forth to Costa Rica on vacation for like 4 years prior to that. So we were in Costa Rica for 2 months, and there was an opportunity for us to buy property. And the property was in the jungle, and Roseanne fell in love with the property and everything. And I was like, oh crap, here we go. So, you take out the checkbook, and it's like, and the original plan was for us to have this property because it was a beautiful piece of property in the jungle, and we were going to keep it for retirement, whatever that is when you're an entrepreneur. Because I mean, I can't see myself ever retiring from anything. I'm always going to be doing something. So we did it mainly for like an investment or as a retirement property. And then we got home, and it was May when we arrived home, and it was the beginning of May, and there was snow on the ground, and it had just snowed another, there was like a meter of snow piled outside of my house, and I was still wearing a parka on May the 5th or whenever it was. And we kind of looked at each other, and it was just like, yeah, I think we're done with this. So we, without telling the kids, we put the house up for sale, where we met with a bunch of real estate agents. And at the time, the Toronto real estate market was at its peak. And so we met with a bunch of real estate agents, had our house staged and listed by July. And after it was listed, we had a bidding war. And literally the day that we put it on the market, we sold it that day.
That's insane.
I can't even remember what percentage over asking, but it was crazy. It was just ridiculous. And so that was that. Yeah.
Toronto market is crazy. That's another story, but it's great. I think the right move at the right time. I think we might talk about timing as a factor of success, but I think you sold at the right time.
Yeah, we did, and then like after that, we saw AJ off, so we spent 2 months in Barcelona to make sure that our oldest daughter was okay. We set her up in her apartment. We rented an Airbnb apartment for like 2 months, and the 7 of us were there, and we were together as a family. And then right from Barcelona, we came back to Toronto, packed up all our stuff that was in storage. And then we built a off-grid shipping container home in the jungle of Costa Rica. And that's where we are now.
It's almost done, eh? Is it 100% finished now?
Is it? No, it's never going to be 100%. There's this old Chinese proverb that says, I believe it says, man finish house, man die. And that's basically, so yeah, I mean, the house itself is finished. I mean, we could do a little, there's always like little things that we need to do. And, we had just finished getting our solar array and everything. And now we're working on finalizing the exterior. And then we still have a bunch of things to plant. And what we want to do is we want to build some small little, they call them cabinas here in Costa Rica, but like just small little living spaces that we can potentially rent out
That's a good
or
idea.
have there for family if they want to come and visit. And yeah, so that's the plan. So no, it's always an ongoing project, which, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm never busy. So why not add more stuff to the table, right?
But I like what you said, like you were, a family of seven and you moved into an Airbnb. And I think the thing that struck me is that when I mean, we lived together at different times, for like a couple of weeks, like on vacation with the kids and stuff, and rented cottages together. And the thing that strikes me is how the whole order and coordination that is happening in your family. I mean, it feels like everybody knows their roles. Like they all know what to do. Your kids, I mean, they're the most polite kids I've ever met. They're the smartest kids I've ever met. I mean, obviously, yeah, I'm going to pick your brain hardcore on this because, it's every time I see you guys, it's what strikes me. It's like, wow, what you think would be chaotic and insane. And I know I have friends, we both have friends that, have lesser kids than us, and it's chaotic, it's crazy. And you guys seems to be doing that so effortlessly, like that, it's been a big lesson for us. Like, wow, okay, well, this is what great parenting looks like. This is what a great marriage looks like. And yeah, man, it's been, you've been a blessing in my life, and just watching that. And for Karen and I, you guys are huge inspirations.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, and you and mine as well. I mean, you guys just seeing how you've built the businesses and what you're doing, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know a little bit about your background, but go into like, there's this big myth out there right now about college education. Although with the entrepreneurial community, it's a
Mhm.
little bit different, I find. And I I dropped out of college in my third year because we were having a baby. And
Mhm.
so I could not afford to support myself and go to university and support a family at the same time. So I actually dropped out. And so
Kind of got
I'm not
forced.
college educated. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things. And I had a very figure it out mentality, but yours is an even more profound story. Like, I mean, talk a little bit about your background in terms of education and what you did and how you became successful at that.
Oh man, yeah. Educate like academically, it was kind of a nightmare for me. Like I was not the best. I mean, here's the thing: like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I actually graduated at 20, like because I switched like courses and things. I didn't want to do this, and then I wanted to do that, and I ended up like graduating at 20 because I grew up.
Graduating university or high school?
No, because I here's the thing. I grew up in the weirdest place ever on the island of Saint Pierre, on the archipelago Saint Pierre Miquelon. So it's a French owned it's French owned islands on the south coast of Newfoundland, Canada, and the school system over there is still is the same as the French school system. So the difference with the French school system is that the last 2 years of your curriculum in high school, you can take the last 2 years as you can have you can study specific things. So on the islands, I had like the option of three things, and I couldn't see myself doing that. And so I kind of did my last 2 years again, if you want. So I didn't graduate at 18 when I was supposed. I went back to my like 11th grade, let's say, and I moved to Europe for 3 years. I did 2 years, graduated in computer science, and then I didn't know what to do. Still, I went to university for a year. That was the funny thing. I took a university, and I was studying in France at the time. And in France, like studies are free. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to spend a whole year just doing playing hockey and travel and have fun. Because I was there. I moved to Europe. I played hockey at the same time. So I was there. The team that I was playing with, like, said, oh, okay, well, we'll pay for your travels and, pay for this and that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So I did that. And I stayed at university. I took foreign language and literature. So I studied English and I was all bilingual. So anyway, this didn't really matter. And I studied Spanish as well that year. But when I say studied, I didn't really study. I didn't go to university that much. I think I went to about 30% of the courses, and 30% of the time that I was at university, I actually was showing up at classes that I was not even registered for. So I remember taking like marketing classes and things like that. I was like, that was great. I was like, I love that stuff. Like, I don't care about the rest. So anyway, I did that. So I lost another year. And then I ended up going to college for 3 years doing a marketing degree. So it was just all over the place. And, I was never really I was never interested in academics. I didn't care about my grades. I always did, decent, you know what I mean? But I was more of guys that were figuring things out. So I was always figuring a way to get like decent grades to pass. And I was never studying because my brain was just different. I was not the same. I felt like I was not the same as the other kids there. And and I went there. I started learning. I got my first job in sales, actually. And I learned actually how to sell. I learned how to manage a team. All these things.
What were you selling back then?
Cell phones. So that was my first job out of college. I knew the guy who was managing. So he was managing a chain of stores. So the thing in Atlantic Canada, the stores are owned by I don't know if it's still like that, but Bell, which is one of the cell phone carriers in Canada, they have various providers, if you want, or various companies manage their stores. So I was working for that company in Moncton, New Brunswick, called Sounds Fantastic, and they owned, I think it was 11 stores they were retailing Bell products and services. So I started doing that, selling cell phones, and I quickly became actually. I guess I was strategic because I had no real experience in sales, and I remember saying I would like to learn more about sales and learning how to sell properly. And I did that. I kind of liked it, and I became one of the top sales guys in the company. So doing that, I moved up the ladder. I would say I became a store manager, and from there, having a marketing background, there was an opportunity to move up to head office to actually manage all the stores for marketing and sales. So I was actually managing 11 stores overall, and teaching them on how to sell better. Because my thing that I developed, my expertise, was upselling. So I was upselling like crazy in the stores. So I got my reputation as someone who could upsell, and I did that to at scale, let's say, with the 11 stores. And from there, the weird thing. So at that time, I was also a trainer on the side, so fitness trainer, and I was competing in bodybuilding. And at that time, I went to compete at a show in St. John's, Newfoundland. So in Newfoundland, I remember I was part of that online community, that online board called Heavyweights. And I didn't have that much money at the time. So and that was, I think, in 2007. So I early 2007, I think. Yeah, I can't remember. But it's I posted on the board saying hey, I'm heading St. John's to compete. If other guys from out of town and are competing and want to share a hotel room, just let me know, and we'll share it. And then there's a guy called Lee Hayward that just
no way.
Yes. So he just private messages me. He's like, hey, listen, I'm competing. I'm competing to that show. I live in St. John's. If you want to crash at the house, you're more than welcome. I know you guys. I was living in New Brunswick, so it's like, hey, if you're out of town, then we can just help each other out. And you look like a cool dude. I was like, all right, man, cool, let's do it. So I show up. Lee picks me up at the airport in St. John's. I go to his place. Anyway, we get to know each other, and we really get along. And I start questioning about what he was doing for a living. And it's like, well, I have a website. I operate a fitness blog. It's like, really? Wow, that's all you do? He's like, yeah, it's just me, and I have a bunch of like properties, and my wife Trish works with me full time, and that's what we do. It's like, really? Do you make that much money from fitness blog? He's like, yeah, I make six figures. It's like, what?
Oh my God.
I need to
Yeah.
learn about this. So Lee was my the first guy that was actually living the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And I had that like I at 14 years old. Here's a weird thing, because growing up on an island, I got the internet for the first time when I was 14 years old, and I became completely obsessed by the internet at that time. So I started actually, like, obviously the fact that I could reach out the world from my small islands just from a computer was absolutely insane. So I started actually teaching. I taught myself HTML. So I built my first websites at the age of 14. And then I kind of let that go, because I didn't have the internet became more mainstream, and I went to Europe and stuff. But I was like, oh wow, this is insane! I need to learn that. So I actually coded my first website in HTML, and I launched that. And yeah, we from there, like, we started making some sales, doing some online coaching, things like that. Started doing learning from direct response marketing. And then we launched Anabolic Cooking, which was the first ebook that we sold online. It was a big success, and from there we've built our first business, and the rest is history. But yeah, man, it's how I really started, by meeting, and Lee. And Lee's an OG. Like, he's been at it since 1999. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think in 1999, I had internet. I've known the internet for a few years, but that's insane that the guy's been doing that full time, since
That's an
1999.
OG right
That he's the real. He's the real. He's like the OG in the hip hop space, but he's like, I don't know, grandmaster. He's like Grandmaster Flash. I don't know, but he's
there. Yeah. Seriously.
So yeah, but for me, yeah, back to academics was a bit all over the place, was a bit crazy. I'm not an example when it comes to academics, so it was kind of a hard time for me. I think it's a fact of like feeling that I was not fitting in at all, like, and it was not a time where we were glorifying entrepreneurship. When you were an entrepreneur, it's like, yeah, you fucked up your study, you were bad at school, and you had to figure out a way to make money. That was kind of, we were not glorifying that, and I always felt different that way.
It's funny, so you just basically told your whole story up to where you are now, when you started marketing fitness, your fitness products, and you started your own business. But if you take a look at your origin story, and you go back from the sales background to getting, specializing in marketing, to learning HTML as a 14-year-old, to just being able to communicate with people and finding a mentor like Lee, like you just happen to find him. But you take a look at that whole story, and you can look at how each stage in your life contributed to who you are now and the businesses that you built, and how each of those skills, sales especially, like a lot of the guys that I've met who are in the online space or who are entrepreneurial, they had a sales job early. Like you and I both know that Vince started as selling personal training. I was Vince Del Monte, a mutual friend of ours. And it was the same thing for me. Like, I started in retail when I couldn't find a job, when I was trying to figure out what to do when we had a daughter. And I found that I was really great at speaking to people and nurturing a relationship and connecting with people just through talking to them. And so I found some success in retail and ended up doing some management stuff later on before I got into the whole fitness thing. But if you take a look at your origin story, you were developing skills to be able to get to the point where you are now, where you can coach people on how to get them to develop their own businesses and live a certain lifestyle. So it's pretty amazing just going back on that origin story, seeing how everything was built to the place where you are now.
Yeah, I feel like somewhat like things fall into place when you trust the process. I think people want things too fast now. They want things instantly, and they're not willing to trust the process. And here's the thing: I don't know about you, but I never called myself like an entrepreneur. Like
No.
that was never in my vocabulary. Like it was like I was building businesses. I was like, well, this is what I know. I packaged it that way. I sold it and I made money out of it. But I was like, no, I wasn't like with the, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. It feels like now like everybody under the sun is a fucking entrepreneur. But it's like, it's true. I feel like it was not part. It was just an evolution of who I was. I think I was always like that. I was, I had all the symptoms, if you want, of having to go into entrepreneurship. I think people are more aware of that now. But what you said is right. I think you have to trust the process and understanding that where you are now is the sum of or the summary of what you've gone through so far. And the
Of
great
your
thing with it,
experiences.
of your experiences, and the great thing is that who you are now, you will not be the same person in 10 years or 20 years, because you will go through different things, and there will be different iterations of who you are, or different evolutions of who you are. So that's what I love about entrepreneurship. This is why I love about entrepreneurs, is that we're wired a certain way. We deal with things a certain way, and we don't see things from the same eye as maybe the regular people. And from that optics, I think this is how we, you and I will be able to help as many entrepreneurs as we can, and those who want to build a greater life, and want to have a business around that great life.
Right. From different points of view as well. Like you and I are very good friends and everything, but our paths have been completely different.
Oh yeah.
So you'll be able to get, those of you that are listening, you'll be able to get a different viewpoint of how to do it, because there is no one set path. There is no one formula. Everybody has to go through their own path. And it's exactly like what Dave's saying. You're not going to be the same person 7 years from now, and entrepreneurship is very much a microcosm for life, because you are constantly evolving as a person. Even biologically, your cells are always restructuring themselves and killing themselves off to be able to create new ones. And it's the same thing with entrepreneurship and with business. You're always going to be evolving, which is why a lot of times you really have to just maintain what's called a beginner's mind and always be a student for things. I mean, that's the reason why Dave has, you have coaches and I have coaches. And even though you and I may lead our own coaching groups, our own masterminds and everything, we're still part of other masterminds, because we're always learning, we're always evolving, and we're always looking for, not necessarily looking for the next thing, but always looking to improve ourselves in some way, shape, or form, because it's about evolution and really maintaining that beginner mindset.
100%. We always have to evolve. We always have to do things, and take what is relevant to us and make our own recipe. And this is what makes entrepreneurship great, man. So, I hope that we're going to be able to serve you guys for a very long time. Obviously, the goal with this podcast is to serve you guys for many years, and it's a great adventure that is starting right now. And I'm excited. I'm pumped. Chris, thank you so much for accepting of being my co-host on this, because when I wanted to go with I don't like to do things on my own. Like, I really love to have people involved into what I do. And obviously the Done by Noon concept or framework or idea it's not new. It's something that's been around for a while. But when I had the idea for a podcast, and I thought about you, and when we caught up last time on the phone, and you're like, I asked you if you wanted to be my co-host, and you're like right away, yes, absolutely, let's do it.
It was a no-brainer, man. It's like I was saying, and that's another thing about entrepreneurship. Like you get to do projects, and you get to be in business with your friends and the people. Like, you can be very selective about that. And so I don't know about you, but I always look for opportunities to do business or to do deals or to just be able to enhance relationships with people that I really admire and that I genuinely love, obviously in a platonic way, Dave, because I'm married. But and when you asked me, it was exactly like what you said. It was just like instinctual. It was like 100%. I'm in. So
And that's
yeah,
crazy, and that's
there was
great too, because the thing with the two of us, we live in remote areas. I'm on the east coast of Canada. I live in a small community there. Chris is in Costa Rica right now. It might not sound like it. The great thing about technology now is that we can record podcasts like that by you being in Costa Rica, by me being in New Brunswick, Canada, and we can have these things and reach you guys from all over the world. So I'm excited about this. Chris, thank you so much, my friend. We're going to wrap this up, this initial episode of the Done by Noon podcast, but I can wait to be back next week and keep doing this with you guys.
Let's do it. I'm excited. Thank you for having me, my friend.
All right, man. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Peace out, everybody.
You have just listened to the Done by Noon podcast. If you are interested in hearing more, do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel. Click on the 5 stars or check out our free tools and trainings at donebynoonpodcast.com. Thanks again for listening and stay awesome. We'll see you next time.